All right, this is the Cortez City Council regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, and the time is 7:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Donna, can we get the roll call?
Yes, Kiefhoffer.
Here.
DeHaven.
Here.
Spurl.
Here.
Dobry.
Here.
Randall.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Medina.
Here. Thank you. All right, council, do we have approval of the agenda as presented or any additions or changes?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by DeHaven.
Lewis.
Yes. Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Spurl.
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to number 2 on our agenda, the consent agenda. The listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item may be removed from the consent agenda at the time prior to council's vote. After reading it, I will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion. A, approval of the council special meeting / work session and agenda minutes for April 23rd, 2024. B, approval of the expenditure list for May 14th, 2024. C, approval of a renewal retail marijuana center license for New View Pharma, LLC, located at 503 Patton Street, Cortez. D, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for Fiesta Mexicana No. 3, Inc., DBA Fiesta Mexicana Family Restaurant, located at 430 North Highway 145, Cortez. E, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for Rosita's Inc., DBA Tequilas, located at 1740 East Main Street, Cortez. F, approval of 4 special event permits for Cortez Retail Enhancement Association to host Third Thursday events on June 20th, July 18th, August 15th, and September 19th, 2024, at Montezuma Park, located at the corner of Market Street and Montezuma Ave, Cortez. And G, approval of a special events permit for Cortez Area Chamber of Commerce to hold a business after-hours event on May 16th, 2024, from 5 to 7:30 p.m. on the premises of Remax Mesa Verde Realty, located at 1640 East Main Street, Cortez. Would anyone like to see one removed for discussion or a motion to approve?
I move the council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis and seconded by Spruill.
Sorry, Spurl.
Yes.
Randall.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye. Aye.
Medina.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to number 3 on our agenda, public participation. There is no limit to the number of speakers, although public comment will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commenter. Thank you, Linda. And then do we still have our timer and visual cues? Okay. Thank you. All right, and for anyone who's new for public comment, Linda will hold up a sign when you have 1 minute left, when you have 30 seconds, and when your time's up. But I'd like to invite up Trina Decker for public comment. So make sure one of the microphones is on for you, and then you start with your name and address.
My name is Trina Decker. My address is 21344 Road D, Cortez. Good evening, Mayor Medina and City Council members. I am here as a representative of the Cortez Water Dragon swim team. I am one of the coaches. I am also a mother of 4, all of whom have been on the team at one time, and 2 who currently swim on the team. First, I would like to thank you for your approval on a bid from Recreonics to purchase new thermal mats for the Cortez outdoor municipal pool. We as a swim team are given the responsibility of removing said mats every morning before our swim team practice, and the old ones were in need of replacement. Second, because of some comments made at the PARFAB meeting, I would like to inform you of a little history of swimming in Cortez. We have been an independent nonprofit swim club in Cortez since 1972. Our team has been a seasonal team with the exception of the years approximately 2016 to the beginning of the year 2020, when we were a year-round team. Our season as of right now starts April 1st and continues through the end of August. When we were a year-round team, which included seasonal swimmers, we had over 100 kids and 25 adults in the Masters swim program. Since COVID, we have had to reduce the swim season from year-round to just seasonal because of the lifeguard shortage and limited pool availability of hours. Today, our team numbers have grown to almost the same amount as before COVID. In 2022, our team hosted seasonal state. 20 clubs from around the state attended. 303 kids participated. We would like to be able to host the seasonal state meet again in the future, which brings lots of people to the area. In the summer of 2021, the city of Cortez did not offer swim lessons. We as a team took anyone interested in swimming as kids were anxious to be back in the water and parents saw it as the only instruction available to their kids that summer because the outdoor pool and recreation center was closed to kids. In 2022, some kids stayed with our swim team while others took swim lessons through the city. Many parents find swim lessons are a good fit for their kids, while other parents feel that the swim team is the better choice for their kids. In our dealings with other cities' teams, they tell us of the great cooperation they have with their city's aquatic directors and the pride that their cities have in their teams. Evidence of this cooperation include displaying the team logos and pool records at the aquatic centers, and they are given storage space for the team's equipment. There has been much less cooperation here in Cortez, as we are not allowed to store all our equipment or hang up permanent signs which display the community's pride in our team. I would love to see better cooperation from the aquatics director here in Cortez. We can work together. As lifeguard shortages affect our team, I would like to ask how the aquatics director will be held accountable to process lifeguard applicants in a timely manner. I believe in the importance of a swim team offered here in Cortez. While I swim with people of all ages and love it because it is a lifelong sport, I believe the way we grow a community is through offering programs such as Swim Team to kids.
Thank you. All right, can I invite up Mara Backstrom?
Hello, I'm here again tonight on behalf of the Cortez Water Dragon Swim Team Board, parents, and swimmers. I wanted to give an update on our practices since the last City Council meeting. Somehow, with the same staff at the rec center, we have been able to practice 2 days a week now. This is unexpected, but great news. However, this is still not up to our needed 4 days per week. We have missed more than a quarter of our swim season. This is a big deal for swimmers trying to qualify for the state meet. We understand the shortage of lifeguards and agree we have been having this conversation since last fall. Frankly, it's a topic every year. However, we feel like we came to the table with a plan and received an agreement with the rec center by offering to gather interest from people who would be willing to guard just for our team practices. Time and time again, people applied to the rec center. They didn't receive calls back timely. Some were 2 weeks or longer before they were even acknowledged that they had put in an application. Some of them didn't even get a call back at all. And then many of them did not get timely information and direction on how to proceed through the process. We know not everyone will pass the test, but this is why we rallied as many people as we could. We're still trying to rally people. We would like to know why the applications were handled so slowly when it's public knowledge that the rec center pool isn't open due to the lifeguard shortage. Why has there been no sense of urgency before the last couple weeks to staff lifeguards? Why does no one seem to want to work there? We think these are all questions that you should be wondering yourselves. Is this acceptable to the city that our rec center is only open for swim when most adults are working or students are in school? Why are there so many restrictions even when it is open? We feel there is a loss of vision for what our parks and rec system should be providing to the community and just accepting the current situation. Why are we not asking why? Is it only a shortage of lifeguards, or is that what we're blaming it on right now? Why are we not fighting for solutions for our community? There was mention that some of our parents sent angry emails. We value and respect our swim families and their voices. We did encourage our swimmers and parents to voice their feelings. But I ask you not to confuse anger with frustration. These parents not only are swim team members, but also have kids that play other sports like soccer and baseball and like to swim as families in the off season. Many have experienced frustrations in other areas of our parks and rec system that add to the swim frustration. Many of them are so frustrated that they've canceled their rec center pass and opted to join the Durango Rec Center. That should tell you something not only about our rec center hours, but possibly the atmosphere as well. This little team keeps going no matter what comes up. We've always tried to teach a sense of responsibility and community members, determination, and a don't give up attitude. I'm asking you to take a closer look at the current and historical operations at the rec center and the outdoor pool. What are other possible factors that have led to the situation we are in?
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks.
So since we've heard from a lot of community members around this topic, so I'm gonna let our city manager address some of the things that you guys have brought up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Understand that my comments are mine alone in my role as city manager. I do not represent the council in these comments. However, this is a repeated complaint that has come back that we've looked at. It's gone to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. It's now come to council at least twice, and also in various forms to individual council members, and including myself. The bottom line is on all this, we're not gonna go tit for tat on everything, but the reality is, we really want to get them in the pool as well. But the bottom line is, as has been mentioned repeatedly, this is about lifeguards. We've had 3 swim team parents who were not able to pass the testing. We just barely went through 9 applicants, of all of which 3 may be able to go through and complete the testing. The reality is what we're talking about here is a request at its core is to pull out the stops and cut corners so that we can get in the pool. On the other hand, what we're worried about is without adequate lifeguards, we are risking the life of children. Are we really as a community willing to accept the loss by death or serious bodily injury of a child merely in our zeal to get in the pool faster? I'll leave that out there for the community to consider. But that's where we're coming from. We're working as fast as we can to do the right things, but it's got to be right. Risking a child is not acceptable. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you all for coming. Do we have any other public commenters to comment on anything not on our agenda? Okay. All right, please come to the podium. Start with name and address.
Tim Webb, 15016 Road 28, Dolores. So I would like to comment on the city manager's comments. That's nice. I spoke at the advisory board meeting. It's nice that you want to hide behind the word safety. Many people have done it. It sounds good. Not one person on the planet is going to stand up here and say, yes, risk the lives of children. So please save your general comments. That's not what we're here for. I've heard a couple of people speak already. We are asking the city council now. The city manager has said that he doesn't speak on your behalf. We are here asking you to please look into the details, okay? We understand. Obviously, we're the parents of these children. You think one of us is going to stand up here and say that we want to risk the lives of our own children? Let's get beyond the rhetoric, okay? That's what I'm here to ask you. Please please, as the city council, who represents this city, who owns this rec center, who this gentleman over here works for, and the other gentleman over here works for him, okay? There are details here that have been referred to, such as applicants not being called back, okay? People going into the manager's office wanting to apply for a job and being told that, sorry, we don't need lifeguards, we're good, okay? These are details. So we can hide, again, behind safety, but that is not what we're asking, okay? None of us want safety to be ignored. So please, as the city council, look into these details. There's details about scheduling. It was mentioned about why the pool's open this hour or that hour, right? Lap swim, these sorts of things. We are being restricted unnecessarily, okay? When somebody just wants to keep saying over and over that there's a lifeguard shortage, look into the details, please. Why are lifeguards not wanting to work for the pool? Why are lifeguards that worked here last year not wanting to reapply this year because of certain management decisions? Why are lifeguards that want to be lifeguards not being returned, having their calls returned? Why, he mentioned about some lifeguards that have not passed. Well, please look into the lifeguards that have passed. Look into the details of lifeguards that have applied and have taken the test and passed. Look at their last names, please. Look into the details. Why are some lifeguards not passing and others passing? Why do we have a shortage? I'll stop at that, please. But again, where else are we going to go other than to the city council? He's mentioned that this is our second time here. Well, I'll be here a third time, I suppose. Do you guys want, is this not the forum to address concerns, to express concerns? What else would you want us to do? Please let us know. If there's another route, again, please let us know. But hearing this gentleman saying, you guys have been here again, before, please stop coming, that's not going to work. That's not how democracy works. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to 4 on our agenda, presentations. 4A is a proclamation honoring National Hospital Week. All right. Proclamation, National Hospital Week, May 12th through 18th, 2024. Whereas National Hospital Week is May 12th through the 18th, 2024, and the official theme is We Are Healthcare, caring for patients, strengthening communities. And whereas individuals all across the country will be celebrating this time-honored event. And whereas the hardworking people that compose our health system deserve universal regard and appreciation for keeping our community healthy. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Rachel Medina, Mayor of Cortez, do hereby proclaim May 12th through 18th, 2024 to be Hospital Week in Cortez, Colorado, with the official theme, We Are Healthcare, and urge residents to express their appreciation for the people, facilities, and technologies that make trustworthy, reliable healthcare possible in our community. Witness my hand this 14th of May, 2024. And then, do you want to get up and speak? We have Joe Thine here, the CEO of the hospital.
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome, new City Council members. It's good to see all of you. I'll just be brief and share with you our gratitude for the support of the city and its residents of the hospital. Southwest Health System is a community hospital, and so part of this week is really celebrating all that we do for the community and our availability. Would welcome all of you to come celebrate with us as a part of a community celebration this Friday afternoon between 11 and 1. We're hosting a barbecue. Anyone's welcome from the community. We'll be serving lunch. We're also hosting a birthday party for all the children that have been born since January of 2023 through the present. So we'll have some activities for kids, some cake to celebrate. And again, it's both a celebration of the people who are delivering care, but also the community that we support, and look forward to doing that together. So thank you for honoring us this week.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being here. All right, we're going to move on to 5 on our agenda, public hearings. 5A is a transfer of location of a retail marijuana store for Mountain, presented by Linda Smith, our city clerk.
Madam Mayor, if I could just interject quickly, you set through a presentation by Mr. Light on quasi-judicial decision-making. I've also provided you some input a few times recently on that issue, and would just remind you again that this is a quasi-judicial hearing, and your decision, should you choose to make one tonight, should be based solely on the evidence and testimony and public input that you received tonight, and not any information you may have obtained outside of this public hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As the City Attorney just expressed, this is a quasi-judicial hearing tonight on an application for Mount Annie's LLC, which has an existing retail marijuana store license in the City of Cortez. As per the following regulations, I'm going to go through each of those for each of you. This is for a change of location request. As per our city code, section 4-219, this is the change of location regulations. A license may move his or her permanent location to another location in the City of Cortez, but it shall be unlawful to cultivate, manufacture, distribute, or sell retail marijuana at any such place until permission to do so is granted by the City of Cortez and the state licensing authority. In permitting a change of location, the Cortez City Council shall consider all reasonable restrictions that are or may be placed on the new location, and any such new location shall comply with all requirements of this article: the City of Cortez Land Use Code, the Colorado Retail Marijuana Code, and rules promulgated by the state licensing authority. The local licensing authority shall not authorize a change of location until the applicant produces a license issued and granted by the state licensing authority, covering the period for which the change of location is sought. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. Currently, Mount Annie's is located at 310 East Main Street. A transfer of location application was submitted to the City Clerk's office on April 4th, 2024, to relocate Mount Annie's to 439 East Main Street. The Cortez Police Department report is included in your council packet tonight. States that there are no violations that would restrict Mount Annie's from changing locations from 310 East Main Street to the proposed location of 439 East Main Street. Public notice has been completed by posting the premise. An advertisement in the Cortez Journal has been completed as required by state statute. As per City Code Section 4-212, distance. All medical marijuana businesses or retail marijuana establishments shall be at least 1,500 feet from any school, the principal campus of any college, university, or seminary, residential child care facility, or other medical or retail marijuana establishment. Any distance to be computed regarding the distances between medical marijuana licenses, medical marijuana retail licenses, or other establishments where a distance requirement has been established shall be measured as follows. I just wanted to make sure that you guys can understand how, I'm going to show later how the distances were done, but I wanted you to be sure to be able to understand how it was done. Said distances shall be computed by direct measurement from the nearest property line of the land used for non-licensed purposes. That would be the schools or other establishments, to the main entry of the building in which medical marijuana businesses occurs, or retail marijuana, using a route of direct pedestrian access measured as a person would walk safely and properly without trespassing, with right angles at crossings, and with the observance of traffic regulations and lights. The distance requirement information, as completed by Sean Canada, our fire building code inspector, is below. He measured 3 times. The average of his 3 measurements are below. Kemper School at 620 East Montezuma Avenue is 1,560 feet. New Wings is at 210 South Washington Street is 1,537 feet. And Unlimited Learning Center at 640 East 2nd Street is 1,507 feet. That's the end of my presentation tonight. I just wanted to note that our city attorney will make his findings with you after I'm completed, and also the applicant is in the audience, and he would like to speak to City Council about his presentation as well. Staff is recommending that Council approve the findings per City Code Section 4-215, issuance of an application for Mountain Annie's to move from 310 East Main Street to 439 East Main Street, Cortez, Colorado. Are there any questions? Patrick's going to be first and then the applicant.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. I will give you the suggested findings from the code. Obviously, it's up to you to listen to the evidence and testimony tonight to determine if one or more of the findings have not been met based on what you hear tonight. But essentially, there are 5 issues that you should consider. One is just generally under section 4-215 of the code, you need to determine that the application complies with all of those requirements. I won't read them verbatim, but the code sections that I'm referring to are all included in the packet presented by the city clerk's office. The second specific requirement is that the local or location distance restrictions under section 4-212 of the code have been met, and the clerk went through a description of how we identified 3 schools or related institutions that would be classified as schools for which there is a 1,500-foot limit. And based on the measurements from the chief building official, this application does meet those distance requirements. The next item is the code allows council to apply all reasonable restrictions, additional restrictions to this license in addition to what are already contained in the permit that was issued in the current location of this business. The staff has not identified any additional restrictions that would be warranted, but certainly the council is free to determine additional restrictions with the guideline that they have to be reasonable, so that's something you are able to consider. I would certainly caution you that by reasonable, one of the firm criteria is that it has to be a restriction that either the state marijuana laws or the city marijuana code impose on marijuana licenses. And if you have a concern about whether a possible restriction meets any of those requirements, certainly feel free to forward the question to me and or the city clerk. And the final finding that I would encourage is that you consider all evidence, testimony, and facts and other pertinent information that's presented at tonight's hearing in making your decision. And to the extent there are specific documents or information or evidence presented that you believe support a finding, I encourage you to take a note of them and include those if you're so inclined to either discuss why you're in favor of or opposed to this relocation, and make them part of, if indeed one of you is going to make a motion, you can put that in the motion as well. With that, I won't give you the specific findings because I think you need to determine what those will be based on hearing the evidence and testimony. We certainly have given you some recommended findings, but to the extent something you hear tonight changes your opinion, that's why we have a public hearing. And unless you have questions, that's all I have to say on that issue.
All right, thank you, Pat. All right, I'd like to invite the applicant up.
Good evening, City Council. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Randy Knight.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, City Attorney, and ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name's Randy Knight, and if you need me in front of the microphone, I'll get there, but I'm sure you can hear me. So, I've been a member
Mr. Knight, if we could get the microphone, only for the recording purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
How's that?
Good, thank you.
So I've been a member here in the community for quite some time now with an operation, and I employ somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 people, 40 families, not just here, but we have 4 locations on the western slope, Ridgeway, Durango, and Silverton. And we're very proud to be here in Cortez, and we look forward to a long relationship here in Cortez. We love this community. We have some long-term employees that have been here with their families, and we do everything we can to make sure that they can see a career opportunity with what we're trying to accomplish in our business. My management team's here with me and some other family and friends, and Tyler here is our store manager here in this location, and our suggestion to Tyler is to be as involved in this community as you can, and we support that. So we're leaning forward and looking to grow our operation here in this community and look forward to facilitating any concerns you might have.
Great, thank you, appreciate your time. All right, I'm gonna open this up for public comment, the public hearing portion of this. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak for or against this application? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion, and then we'll move into our council discussion. Does anyone have any questions for Linda, or?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to reiterate again, they said it, 3 different people have said it, this is not a new marijuana store, it's a relocation. And I just wanted to reiterate that.
Any question?
I had a question about distance. The averages that we were given are all over 1,500, but of the 9 separate measurements that were taken, 2, one from each New Wings and Unlimited Learning Center, are below 1,500. My concern is that our code doesn't address an average. It says if it's less than 1,500, or I'm sorry, let me pull that up so I have the exact language. All medical marijuana businesses or retail marijuana establishments shall be at least 1,500 feet from any school, principal campus, or any college, university, or seminary, residential childcare facility, or other medical or retail marijuana establishment. If 2 of the measurements are below 1,500 feet, I don't see how it meets that requirement.
Good question, Counselor. We have looked at that repeatedly, and part of the issue is the route you take. If you, they used the wheel measurement, the pedometer, to go there, and no matter what you do, you're not going to get an exact the same measurement repeatedly. If you're off a little bit on your line on the sidewalk over that distance, any number of things come into that. And as I talked to our building official about that, that's what it boils down to, is we're trying to get our best to get that. And since they're not going to be exact every time for a variety of reasons, then we try to do our best to establish what the actual is using an average. So yes, that is something you should consider as a council, that 2 of those came in short, but also on either one of those, 2 of them came in over that amount as well. So it is certainly information for a council to measure, but that's the best information we can get using a pedometer and GIS measurements and trying to establish what an exact one is.
And if I could add, some of you may have been on council previously when the city was involved in some litigation over this issue on measuring. And the language in the code is a direct result of the court order indicating how we should measure. But if you read the highlighted portion of the code that was provided to you, it talks about direct pedestrian access measured as a person would walk safely and properly without trespassing. Of course, that means, do you stay on the sidewalk the entire time and go only at crosswalks? If you come to a parking lot of a private business that is open to the public, can you cross that parking lot? And I think our determination was you have to stay on the public thoroughfares, be they within a city street right-of-way or a sidewalk. And based on that and looking at the numbers, the determination was made that all of the potential schools are more than 1,500 feet. And of course, one of the issues we wrestle with, and we're looking about whether our code needs to be amended, is what's the definition of a school? Because as you may be, one of them was Kemper School. Obviously, that meets the definition. The other two are less certain in terms of their classification, and our code doesn't seem to have a lot of, it talks about the main campus of a college or university. Not sure why that was put in there at the time, because colleges and universities have learning centers and other remote classrooms that maybe aren't part of the main campus, but still would generally be considered as schools. These two entities, we determined that we should consider them as schools, and so they were measured as that. But it is an inexact science. I've looked at some of the codes of some other municipalities, and they go into extreme detail on what they consider a school to be. And I think, unfortunately, to avoid any, we err on the side of saying it is a school, and based on all the information we're able to gather, and but based on that, the thought was that the measurements that exceed 1,500 feet comply with what the court had ordered the city to use and what was included subsequently to the lawsuit in our code.
Well, I appreciate the thoroughness, because I remember 4 years ago when we were talking about another permit and having disagreements on how the route was measured and the distance, and using crosswalks. So it sounds like we just need kind of tighter language or more clear language of how we get to that 1,500. Because I think the average is a good approach, and maybe it's, the average of 5, or, Robert's implying like none of them should be under 1,500, but we kind of need to have a general consensus then on how we measure it, and that be clear in the code. Obviously, that's going to be for the next time, but.
Yeah, correct, Mayor. But in the end, the standard really is reasonableness. And so, to be that rigid in the code, we're not going to be able to hit that reasonable thing. I'm not saying this is perfect, but with the distance, we're just trying to give a reasonable understanding of what that actual distance is. And that's why the 3, and perhaps, we could do more, but, this is the information we have now, we generated.
And I would note that the state statute is 1,000 feet, the standard, rather than our code, which is 1,500 feet. Our code is 1,500 though, so that's the standard we have to comply with. If you're looking at some of these measurements, none of them are roughly more than 50 feet shy, so it's not like we've got one that's 900 feet or something like that. But I think the determination was made that based on our calculations, it is in excess of 1,500 feet from any of these learning institutions.
All right, thank you. I mean, I guess I see these measurements, the average, as reasonable.
I agree. I think that's reasonable. It's not like we're trying to take a really low average and beef it up. Everything is within what I see as reasonable within our code, and the methodology seems sound to me.
Do you guys have any questions, comments? All right, do we have a motion?
I move that City Council approve the request of Mountain Annie's LLC to move the permanent location of its retail marijuana store from 310 East Main Street, Cortez, Colorado, to 439 East Main Street, Cortez, Colorado, based upon the following findings. 1, the City Council has been provided by city staff with copies of the Cortez City Code, Chapter 4, Article 3, the Cortez Retail Marijuana Code, the code, and has determined that the applicant's request complies with all applicable provisions. And 2, specifically, the City Council has considered the applicable requirements for the issuance or denial of approvals stated in Section 4-215 of the Code, and determined that the applicant complies with all such application requirements for an approval. And 3, specifically, the City Council has considered the location restrictions for the applicant's requested new location pursuant to Section 4-212 of the Code, and determines that the new location complies with such distance restrictions. And 4, specifically, the City Council has considered all reasonable restrictions that could be placed on the applicant's requested new location pursuant to Section 4-219 of the Code, and determines that no additional restrictions are warranted. And 5, the City Council has considered all the evidence, testimony, facts, and other pertinent information presented at tonight's public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by DeHaven and seconded by Sproul.
Randall,
Yes.
excuse me, Dobry,
No.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Spurl,
Yes.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you. We're gonna move on to 6 on our agenda, unfinished business. We have none tonight, so 7 is new business. 7A is a bid award for the 2024 Public Works Storm Drain Project, presented by Brian Peckins, our Director of Public Works.
Madam Mayor, City Council, the city's Public Works Department prepared bid plans and specifications and advertised this project on BidNet, approximately 700 contacts, the city's website, and in the Cortez Journal. 5 sets of bid documents were picked up. Bids were opened on April 16, 2024, with 2 bids received. Ramco Developments at $1,033,667,000, and from WCA Construction $895,988.80. The City of Cortez has an annual budget in the Street Improvement Fund for street and storm drain improvements. This year's project consists of replacing an existing flood risk culvert, building a multi-use pathway to improve safety of school drop-off traffic and bike connectivity, and replacing curb gutter at Mesa School. New storm drain inlets with new storm drain pipe will be installed, and curb and gutter replaced around Kemper School to minimize stormwater damage and flooding. Additional work around town will consist of regrading dirt roads to contain stormwater runoff and reduce flooding of adjacent residences. The street improvement fund has a total of $900,000 budgeted for this work. Staff recommends awarding the bid to WCA Construction at their bid price of $895,988.80. Subject to any questions?
Brian, I like the fact that it's under the 900,000 that's budgeted. That's great. Can you give us an idea of the prices of concrete and how they've fluctuated since this was originally determined as a bid?
I'm going to turn it over to Keith Moore, our project manager.
All construction material has gone up exponentially. The contractor is probably paying $250 a yard for just raw material concrete. Where in the past we would have paid $250 for concrete sidewalk, flat work in place. So yeah, aggregate materials have gone up because of fuel costs. We pay almost as much for material as we do for delivery. Yeah, it's exactly what you're seeing in the grocery store and in the lumber yard and everywhere else.
So is this all work around Mesa or Kemper or both?
Both.
Both, okay. And then I guess my question's about Mesa. So you say multi-use path. I guess I'm trying to picture where, because as someone who like lives on the south side and tries to get to Hawkins, there's not consistent sidewalks. I think there's a bike lane on 7th. But I guess, yeah, what are the improvements kind of look like?
Yeah, the multi-use path will be a pedestrian walkway and a bike path. It will run on both sides of 7th Street when the project is complete. Oh. And that is part of the ongoing process of completing the safe routes to school. Right now we are improving the crossings near the school and the sidewalk for the pedestrians and the bicycles will be located on the north side of Mesa so that the cars and the buses can use the lanes closer to the school. So the idea is to separate those uses and minimize, possible accidents.
Great.
Is that enough?
I just want to make that same comment that I make almost every single time. We need more bids. And I know it's very difficult to get these bids, but we've got to start doing something citywide to figure out some way to get more bids. 2 bids is not good. And when you only get 2, that's all you get. But we need to figure out how we can get more. I think the entire city needs to figure out how we can get more bids.
Yeah, agreed.
Great. All right, do we have a motion or any other questions for Brian and his team?
I move that City Council award the bid for the 2024 Public Works Storm Drain Project to WCA Construction LLC at its bid price of $895,988.80.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis and seconded by Dobry.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 7B on our agenda, letter of recommendation for the selection of airline service. Presented by Jeremy Patton, our airport director.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'll make this pretty straightforward. So in your packet, you've got the agenda memo describing the timeline that we were in this year. We're almost hitting 2 years with Denver Air Connection, which is hard to believe. The DOT puts the RFP out in March of the effective year for the contract to be renewed or competed for. So that was in March, and then through April, the month of April, the companies had time to put in, excuse me. And then for the month of May, we had, for the month of April, we had time for public comment, and that deadline was May 1st. The city, we used our ClearGov transparency site to retrieve comments, the emails directly to me, to the DOT, so all of which have been favoring keeping Denver Air Connection. In my position as the airport director, I think I recommend as well that we keep Denver Air Connection. They've been the most reliable service this community has had, arguably, for over 34 years. And we only had one other company bid on it, which was Advanced Air. They've never had a presence in Colorado as of yet. I think we would be making a big gamble switching airlines or asking the DOT to switch airlines. And to reiterate the DOT's place in this, that we are an EAS community, Essential Air Service. They ultimately make the decision, okay? The subsidy requests these days are massive. I mean, Denver Air is asking for $6.8 million year one, and by year 4, if they get a 4-year contract, we're looking at almost $8 million, but the DOT subsidizes the company. We don't pay that out. We make money off them being here with the lease agreement, landing fees, and obviously the service to the community. So the public comment window is closed, but now is our time to write a letter, which we've drafted, and that we send to the DOT with our recommendation, and hopefully they consider all of the public feedback and our recommendation, our request, essentially. So, and in that letter, I made a pretty good point that there's a 5-year option as well. Generally, it's 2 or 4 years, but with the amount of subsidy values that we're seeing these days, the DOT allows, if reliability and safety are there, they will award 5-year contracts. And Denver Air Connection, out of most of the regional carriers, has the most renewals, and they have a couple 5-year renewals, especially in New Mexico and in the Dakotas. So I suggest that we either ask for a 4 or even a 5-year option should the DOT humor that or approve it. So with that, I'm just asking the council consider the mayor being approved to sign this letter so that we can send it off to the Department of Transportation and hopefully keep Denver Air Connection as our reliable air carrier. Any questions with that?
This isn't really a question, Jeremy, but I noticed that there was a lot of feedback on ClearGov, and more than I've seen for a lot of other issues. So I feel like this is something that people in the community really care about enough to, put, it used to be pen to paper, but fingers to keys on the keyboard. And I think that actually says a lot. So whatever your campaign was to solicit input seems to have really worked.
Yeah, I'll just say that if you look at I think we turned it off from being public. We have a transcript of the airline discussion 2 years ago. There were probably 4 times as many comments, but that was mostly complaints about boutique air. And I like to reiterate to people that we can complain about something, but we need to have solutions, right? So we didn't get as much feedback on praising Denver Air per se, and that's usually how it goes. People are more vocal to say what's wrong than say what's going well. But I was really impressed and happy that we have ClearGov as a transparency. I just encourage people, make comments, whether they're positive or negative. If they're negative, offer maybe a solution if you have some solution, if it's available to you. Because without this feedback, you don't know how much leg to stand on, and the DOT could ultimately make their decision based on the fiscal element of it. And as we know, the fiscal situation's not great. This is a lot of money for the federal government to be subsidizing carriers, and we're not just little old Cortez, but the feedback really matters to the DOT. They do look at this, and good or bad. So,
I just had a question about the wording in the letter of to consider a 4 or 5 year contract. Are we keeping the wording that way, or are we suggesting that we pick one?
I mean, we can change it before we send it off. I think generally they don't give 5 years very easily. It's a pretty hard argument to make. If you guys want to just put 5 years in there and just ask for a 5 year, we can do that. The standard is a 2 or 4. That's why I put.
I'm fine with the 4 or 5. I just wanted to confirm if we were if we needed to clarify that one way or the other, or if we're just moving forward with that recommendation.
Guys, you want me to change it? We can change it before it's signed. I just think that, if we give them, even after we send the letter, there's still, sorry about that. Mike goes in and out. It's not me, I swear. So, when I talk to the DOT directly, I'm going to push for a 5-year. Just, again, this subsidy, the value increases from 6.8 to 8 point something by year 4. Yeah. That's a lot of money. So if we can keep them here and keep this longevity or this reliability, develop a relationship with them, maybe they can scale us up. We're working hard to get that, to be able to have jets in here. We got to make some improvements, especially to the terminal. But this is the best option of what we have available to us, and especially being a Colorado-based company for coming on 30 years, I think they're our best bet.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've done a good job for the last 2 years. We don't see canceled flights from their presentation, from both of the presentations. Yeah. They're more affordable for our community, so I certainly would support this.
Well, I want to, since I last was up here and they did their presentations, Denver Air Connection and Advanced, Denver Air since then has obtained, and it was John Coleman, he said he couldn't speak to it just yet, but it's now knowledge that's available. So they have interlines with American United, and they got a Delta interline agreement as well. And with United, they're working on a code share, which I'm not going to get into the weeds of what an interline and a code share are, but what that means is interlines, you book tickets and you get your baggage transferred. Code shares, you can actually get like with an agent like Expedia, Kayak, and you can book an entire flight. And as an example, from Cortez to LA, if you go and not Cortez, Phoenix, with United in Denver, it's $400 cheaper since they worked out this agreement on the overall package. That's going to save you $800 both ways because of that. Essentially a code share, what they've worked out. That's almost impossible to do with United. They're such a huge company. For Denver Air Connection to work that deal is pretty impressive and a great service to us. And they're doing that in their other communities as well. And they do marketing. We're hearing them on the radio now. They're putting more stuff out on their social medias. And they're doing a lot of data to figure out how to fill seats and keep their tickets cheap. So, any other questions?
I'll make a motion if nobody else has a question. Go ahead. All right. I move that City Council authorize the mayor to sign a letter of recommendation for the selection of Key Lime Corporation, DBA Denver Air Connection, for the next contract period, a 4 or 5 year option as allowed by the U.S. Department of Transportation.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Lewis.
Lewis. Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Buffer.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Spurl.
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Council.
All right, we're moving on to 7C on our agenda, possible selection of a realtor to provide realtor services. Presented by Rick Smith, Director of General Services.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'd like to present to you an award for the RFP services for realtors. This RFP went out in April 24th, and we received 4 proposals to our request for bid. And attached is a copy of the kind of a spreadsheet that we covered. We did receive 4 responses to our request for proposal. Those were Remax Mesa Verde, Regents Real Estate Group, Montezuma Real Estate Company, Century 21. And this would be a as-needed basis. We need some help with mostly on the listing side. And as you can see, staff's recommending that we go with the low bidder, Montezuma Real Estate Limited Liability Company.
And Council, Mayor and Council, I had a additional comment on this. So the reality is that we have the capability to purchase properties in-house. We actually have the capability of selling them in-house, and what we don't have access to is the MLS system to put them out on the fair market, or the open market, correction. And that's what we're really looking for. Even though 3 of the 4 bidders have significant experience over what we're suggesting to you as the successful bidder, really what we're looking for is that small piece. So we're suggesting go with the cheapest price, and that we can get out of it, so the city gets the most out of their efforts to sell any property should that come up.
I have a question. Does this mean that if the city enters into a transaction with a buyer who is not represented by the real estate company, that the real estate company would not receive a commission? I mean, do all go through the real estate agent now if we enter into this agreement?
Okay, so if I understand you right, the scenario you're presenting is that were the city to sell a property to someone who does not have an agent?
And does not use the real estate company, meaning they come directly to the city or they find out by another route?
Well, under this, if we're going to put it out on the open market, we're agreeing that they would have to go through our real estate agent on that.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, generally, we do a exclusive listing where, unless we have any deals currently in the works, which we could exclude from the listing, the agent would handle any of the transactions. And, if somebody just contacted staff and said, hey, I'm interested in that piece of property, staff would refer them to the agent and they would show them the property and do everything that a realtor does, and help us conduct the closing as well through the title company.
Would any property that the city put up for sale then be obligated to utilize a realtor, or could they do it, or could we do it on our own?
Councilmember, they could potentially do it on their own, but what we're trying to do is that this is about fundamental fairness and us getting it out there on the fair and open market. There are examples in the recent past, I'm talking in the 2010s, where real estate was sold and nobody knew about it, and it was questionable at best. And we don't want to repeat those mistakes. We want to be out there on it, and fair's fair. We put it out on the open market, and whoever the highest bidder is, and they should get that, presumably. But if we don't put it out on the open market, then who knows? It just doesn't pass the smell test.
I have a question, sort of the reverse of what Commissioner Randall or Councilor Randall is saying. Is this only for property that the city would be listing? Could the city still buy a property not through the realtor?
Correct. We are going to seek that as part of our contract with this realtor, that we can, in fact, we would just prefer to acquire properties on our own. We have that capability, and the only piece we need is that access to the MLS system.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Do you have any idea how many realtors are in Cortez area, Montezuma County, that meet the specifications for being our realtor?
I don't have that, Counselor.
Can I ask why we only have 4 bids?
Because we put it out and requested bids, and
I can address part of that. We mailed invites to each one of the offices in Cortez. We also sent it to the realtor's secretary. I believe her name's Denise, and she put it out in the newsletter. So every office in Cortez got a copy of the bid, and then every member of the board of realtors that sells or is a realtor got it in their newsletter.
Can you give me an insight, Rick, on how come we're not getting more bids? Are we doing something wrong? Something we're doing? Or throw it out there, they have the ability if they don't want to bid on it, or are they not bidding? Do you have any idea?
In this case, I was tickled to get 4, to be honest with you, because as you see from the responses, 3 of the 4 are pretty much standard rates. In other words, they weren't very hungry.
Yeah, and I think the more bids we get, the hungrier they're gonna get, and I know that, I just wanna see us have more bids. It's just an ongoing theme. I got 2, I got 1, I got 3, and I just don't know if we're doing something wrong. And I would really like you to research it, and I know times are hard, but we need more bids on some of these things, because they're putting any price they want to, and we're reduced to having to pay that price, and I don't think that's what our community wants to do.
Counselor, I think one issue to consider with realtors, the majority of the realtors are residential realtors, and of the few commercial realtors, governmental properties are somewhat of a niche that not everybody is interested in filling, because we can't respond immediately. Generally, we have to bring the bids back or the offers and wait for the council to meet, and so there are some procedures that are not applicable to private businesses. So I suspect that's part of the reason, is residential realtors don't want to deal with the types of properties that we sell, and the commercial realtors probably are, some of them are a little selective in terms of wanting to deal with government entities as well.
And that's a completely understandable explanation, and I appreciate that. And that's why I asked if they met our criteria. I have no idea how many realtors there are that could do this, but we only received 4, and that's kind of concerning.
Good.
I move that the city council approve the proposal and select the low bidder, Montezuma Real Estate Limited Liability Company, to provide realtor services to the city of Cortez, and that the city manager be authorized to sign a contract on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion made by Randall and seconded by Dobry.
Sproul,
Yes.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to 7D on the agenda, selection of successful bidder for 2024 vehicle purchase. Rick Smith?
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. This is a bid for vehicles that includes 2 funds. It's mainly for the equipment fund and the water fund. And for the new council members, for your information, the equipment fund gets its revenue from 1/8 of a cent sales tax that's dedicated for the general fund vehicles. So in the case of like the water fund or the refuse fund, the equipment fund does not buy that equipment. They have to budget and purchase theirs separately from the equipment fund. So we have a combination here. Bids were drawn up and received on May 1st. We received proposals from 3 bidders. One of the bidders is considered an out-of-town vendor per the city's local vendor preference policy. And Councilmember Lewis and Randall, I gave you a copy of the current local vendor preference policy so you could see what we're talking about there. So for bid item 1 is one each of a half-ton full-size 4x4 pickup extended cab. That's 2 main doors with a kind of a suicide side door for the water fund. This will be used for the meter reader. The low bidder was Kazee Motors, $47,584. The other 2 bidders did not meet the specifications. They bid, they did not meet the 2-door, they bid 4-door, and they didn't meet the 8. Excuse me. Bid item 2, that's for 2 vehicles. 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup with a utility bed. And one of those is for the Public Works Department, and the other one is for the Water Fund. You see our trucks running around. It's just a work crew type pickup. The low bidder was Kazee Motors, $59,951. Bid item 3, that is a 1-ton 4x4 pickup with a 12-foot flatbed dump, for Public Works. That low bidder is Kazee Motors, $66,996. And bid item 4 is a 1-ton. Now that's a 2-wheel drive pickup with a 12-foot flatbed dump for Parks. And that's the one for the lady that takes care of all the flowers and stuff in the islands and hauls stuff away. That's why it's 2-wheel drive, because she only works in the warm weather. So the equipment fund provided $206,000, and per the recommendation, it'd be $13,771 below the budgeted amount. The water fund was, their total budget is $115,000, and the recommendation would be $7,465 below the budgeted amount. Council may consider awarding the vehicle bids as follows. Bid item 1 for the water fund to the low responsible bidder, Kazee Motors, at the bid amount $47,584. Bid item 2, 1 each for the equipment fund and 1 each for the water fund to the low bidder, Kazee Motors, at the bid amount of $59,951. Bid item 3 for the equipment fund, for the low bidder, Kazee Motors, in the amount of $66,996. And last, bid item 4 for the equipment fund to the low bidder, True West, at the bid amount of $65,282.
I just had a question regarding the fiscal impact. So both are under budget or below their budgeted numbers. Are these vehicles fully upfitted, or are there any other charges that would, any other expenses that we would need to factor in?
That includes the 12-foot bed dump, so it's all set up and ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
And I might add the utility bed for the crew trucks that has their toolboxes built in and so forth.
All right. Any questions for Rick or?
I move that City Council select and award the 2024 vehicle bids as follows. Bid item 1 for the water fund to the low responsible bidder, Kazee Motors, at the bid amount of $47,584. Bid item 2, 1 each for the equipment fund and 1 each for the water fund to the low bidder, Kazee Motor, at the bid amount of $59,951 each. Bid item 3 for equipment fund to the low bidder, Kazee Motor, at the bid amount of $66,996. Bid item 4 for the equipment fund to the low bidder, True West, at the bid amount of $65,282.
Second.
Motion made by DeHaven and seconded by Lewis.
Sproul,
Yes.
Kefauver,
Aye.
Haven,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Randall, Lewis,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna move on to E on our agenda, 7E on our agenda, City Council appointments to the City of Cortez Advisory Boards and Commissions, presented by Linda Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Included in your packet tonight are the city advisory boards and commissions. We tried to include the information from the past 2 years so that you could follow along with what vacancy and what members we currently have, as well as the times Hopefully we got them correct. I know several meetings have changed over the last few months. It includes the times of which the individual committee meets and where they meet, that kind of information. So tonight I'm just presenting this before you. It's just for your discussion, and if you have any questions, I'm certainly here to answer them.
Okay. So I had each council member give me their recommendations. So for Parks and Rec, Matt Kiefhofer would like to stay on that board, or to be on that board. Library, Lydia expressed interest on staying on that. The Mesa Verde Country Board, Robert. So then the ones kind of up for discussion are the Golf Advisory Board. We had 3 members interested in that. Historic Preservation Board is open, and the Arts Committee is open. So we have 6 spots and 7 of us. So I'm gonna step back and not take on a board and let you all have one. But yeah, so we have Dennis, Bill, and April all interested in the Golf Advisory Board. And the 2 that don't end up on that board, we'll have a discussion on historic preservation or Mesa, or arts. Or if there's other boards.
Is it dispatcher board?
That's different. That's kind of an appointment, and we just recently reappointed you, so you're, yeah. Oh, and then the cultural center was mentioned, but we didn't put a council member on the board 2 years ago, and I think just with the place it's in, we're not gonna appoint anyone on that board right now. All right, so Dennis, Bill, and April. Dennis did just 2 years, or just did a term on there. So would you be interested in art?
I'm not a very good artist, but I would do the historical board if I give up the golf, if there's nobody on the historic board.
Okay.
Is there anybody on the historical board?
No.
I previously had 2, and
Robert had
so,
2 boards.
yeah.
Okay. I loved serving on the golf board. I probably didn't have as much input on it as I should have. I just enjoyed it, and it was a great board to be on. But I think there's other people that are interested, especially the new council people. So I'd like to step down from that and take over the Historic Preservation Board if I could.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
You know, Rachel, I'd just like to say that I've been on the Men's Golf Association for 30 years. I've been trying for several years to get on the board as a public member, and members that are currently on there have been on there for a pretty long time. I'm currently the president of the Men's Golf Association. I think that would be a great fit for me in that position.
Okay.
So I certainly appreciate, Bill's a far better golfer than I am for certain. But I'm a female golfer. I like to golf at least 3 times a week, so I'm very active on the course. Bill has been very active in the past and is currently sitting on a seat, Bill, as the president of the Men's Association. So he's currently serving, and I know he wants it, but I also want it too. So it's like one of those things. So either way is good for me. I'm fine, and I'm also I'll serve wherever. It's all good.
Mayor and council, if I could offer a possible solution to this. Since council members are actually ex officio members of these boards, they don't actually have a vote. If 2 people are very passionate and interested in a board, it doesn't hurt to have 2. But that's the will of the council, but it really would not hurt anything.
I think that's fantastic information, because there is already a representative for the Men's Golf Association there, and I did bring it up to the golf members on the board, and they were just a little bit concerned that there might be a double whammy with Mr. Lewis being on there, with Councilman Lewis. So I think 2 on there was, man, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, and I think, you know, both being new to council, I'd encourage you both to, yeah, if you guys are okay with that, I'm fine.
So I only have a question, and I think it's a great alternative, but it says here that 5 members, 3 members which shall be Montezuma County residents and shall be appointed by the city council, 1 member by the Men's Golf Association, and 1 member to be nominated. So am I interpreting that if we were to both be on it, one of us would have a vote and one would not, or how does that work?
Neither is a vote. Any council member on any of these advisory boards are ex officio,
Okay.
which means they're by the nature of your council position. You
Gotcha.
do not have a vote on there.
Okay.
And nobody does.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Okay. So then the only one up for debate is arts. Do either of you also want to do arts, or should I take that one? Okay. Okay, then I'll be on the arts. Okay, cool. All right, so let me reread this. Parks and Rec is Matt. Library is Matt Kiefhofer. Library is Lydia DeHaven. Historic Preservation Board is Dennis Spruill. Golf Advisory Board is Bill Lewis and April Randall. Arts Committee is Rachel Medina. And Mesa Verde Country is Robert Dobry. Okay. No motion needed? Okay. So then we'll move on our agenda. 8 is draft resolutions, ordinances. We have none tonight. So the 9 is city attorney report?
No report, Madam Mayor.
Okay. 10 is city manager report?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Start with, we had just finished our library director selection process. The 3 finalists for the library directors participated in a staff, employee, and community meet and greets and a staff and community interview on Thursday and Friday of this last week. There were 23 applicants overall for this position. They were reviewed, and the top 6 semifinalists were interviewed by a leadership team. The 6 were pared down to 3 candidates. 2 of them were from out of town and 1 was local. So 2 of these candidates came in, and then all 3 of them went through the process. And in the end, we did not have a successful process. Nobody walked away with this position. We are, sure that any one of them could do the job. The reality is, we need somebody who's going to be the right fit for that position. And so I'm suggesting that we just take our time and find that right fit. We don't want to be back here in a year or 2 doing the very same thing, and that also is very disruptive to the organization. So moving on. Chief Vernon Knuckles, along with Chaplain Dave Guy, Dispatcher Jay Dollar, and Dispatcher Amy Ray Goza, attended the annual Colorado Law Enforcement Memorial Ceremony on May 3rd at the Colorado State Patrol Academy at Camp George West in Golden, Colorado, in honor of our lost Sergeant Michael Moran, whose name was added to the memorial. There were 359 names on the Colorado State Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. As part of the memorial ceremony, Chaplain Guy provided the invocation, and Chief Knuckles was one of the 3 who presented the wreaths. Chief Knuckles is also currently attending the 2024 National Police Week in Washington, D.C., along with Sergeant Tracy Mueller and the family of Sergeant Michael Moran. Sergeant Moran will be honored on May 15th at the Peace Officers Memorial, which is Peace Officer Memorial Day, where he'll be recognized during the National Peace Officers Memorial Service at the United States Capitol lawn, and his name will be added to the National Memorial in Washington, D.C. And if you're ever in D.C., it is a very moving monument. Lastly, just a reminder that the annual City Council retreat is slated for this coming Saturday, March 18th, 2024 at 8 a.m. in this room. Look forward to seeing you all there. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Great, thank you, Drew. All right, 11 on our agenda is City Council Committee reports. 11A is the mayor's report on the workshop. So Sam Light from CIRSA, our insurance, came and gave a council and our appointed members from planning and zoning, and then the chairs of all the rest of our boards came to listen to a training on our roles as elected and appointed officials. And I recommend anyone who's curious about that to watch our work session on YouTube. But it was pretty much a role training. All right, and then 11B is other board reports. So I don't know if we have any active reports. Go ahead, Matt.
The Parks, Recreation, Forestry Advisory Board met on Thursday, May 2nd at 3 p.m. Actually right here in council chambers this time. We had public comments from some concerned swim team parents, coaches, and supporters. In terms of old business, we briefly touched on the South Park Playground Project update, 7th Street project, and the Rec Center user community or user group, and those were pretty brief. Yep, that's pretty much it.
We did have a golf meeting, and I want to encourage everybody to get out there and play golf. It's the course is fantastic right now, and you can also get on their web and sign up for a tee time. It's fourcornersgolf.com.
Thanks, Dennis.
I was on the community panel for the library director positions on Friday. Unfortunately, what started off as a pretty exciting event, we ended up not having a candidate fulfill that position. So we'll have to move forward to find the right fit for the community. But it was still exciting to hear just from the other community members and the visions of the library and what people would like for the community. So hopefully we can find someone that can fulfill that vision in our next round.
Thanks.
On Monday, I attended the Mesa Verde Country Board meeting. We received Mesa Verde Country's timely audit for 2023, and we worked on, began working on the employee contract for the executive director.
Oh, and how was historic?
I missed the Historic Preservation Board, the last Historic Preservation Board meeting. We were at the airport for the Classic Air Med hangar dedication.
How did the event go, though?
Oh, the weekend, Historic Preservation Day went very well. Yeah, I heard that we had really good attendance particularly at the art exhibition for the I wanted to call it a comic book, not a comic book coloring book, and we did have some interested owners of of historic properties that are registered historic properties that are interested in the Colorado State Historic Preservation Tax credits. So we had some people from the state down to explain how that works.
And I'll just have one go back. I just want to say thank you to Drew and Wendy and all of the city staff. I know doing interviews, setting up candidates, it's a big time chunk and it's a lot of work. So I just really thank you guys, and yeah, we'll do it hopefully just one more time.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mayor Medina, I apologize. That wasn't very professional of me. I also wanted to just piggyback off what Rob said. I went to the coloring book, the Cortez coloring book opening, and I just really wanted to highlight Rachel Marchbanks and Helen West for their work on it, and that evening welcoming people. And if you haven't seen the artwork, it is phenomenal. They were expecting to get, maybe 20 entries, and I believe they got 79. And it's really something to behold, and it benefits the museum downtown, the historical museum, and the Cortez Cultural Center. So I'd recommend buying one at the end of May.
Thanks for sharing that, Matt. All right, thank you all. Okay, so we're going to move on to 12 on our agenda, other items of business. We have no executive session tonight. So then 13 is public participation. There's no limit to the number of speakers and no overall time limit. Do we have any other speakers who have not spoken yet? Okay, great.
I want to
And,
address.
wait till the microphone picks you up, yeah.
I thought my time started.
Yeah, no.
So I wanted to make sure I was talking first. Thank you.
Okay. And just make sure the mic's green for,
I first want to address Drew Saunders. Am I saying it correctly? We definitely do not want anybody being injured or harmed, but I will say I was one of the lifeguards that applied for a position. I'm 44 years old. I have a full-time job. I homeschool my children. I own a business. I do not need the job. I was doing it to help our children of the swim team, my own children, and our community. And in the 2-day class, the 2 children that were in there, one of them completely failed the in-water session. I was told through text message by management that there would be no coaching through that. It was coached 3 times and failed 3 times. I passed the in-water, no problem. When I made it to the testing, I had a problem. I'm 30 years out of high school. I haven't taken a test in 30 years, and I didn't have time to read a manual this big. So, yes, I failed it. That's fine. I'm not upset about that at all. I did it to help. That's what I was doing it for. But I do want you to know, these children are not going to be able to work for our pool because they are children of management, sorry. And so our tax dollars are paying for them to go through training. It's really concerning that we're putting people through training that they're not part of our community, or they are part of our community but can't work for us. So why are we putting them through lifeguard training? My heart just aches for these kids. I grew up in this community. I know how much being on a sports team means and what it does for our community and what it is about teaching about commitment and being a part of a team and working together. And if we don't have that, we don't have much for our young children that are coming up. And one of them may be sitting in your spot in 20, 30 years. We need to teach these kids how important it is to be a team player, show them what community is. And I really am saddened that the sport that my children choose, we were supposed to be in the water April 1st, and here we are May 14th, 15th, wherever we are. And we've had maybe a total of 6 practices in the water, maybe 7. And it's really sad and discouraging. I've even talked about leaving the community, and I built a home here, a business to be here forever and to raise my family here and to be a part of this community that I love so much. And the fact that sports are driving us out is sad. Thank you.
thank you. Would anyone else like to get up and speak for public comment, or? All right, thank you. All right, we'll end that, and then do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay. Motion by Lewis and seconded by Dobry.
Randall,
Yes.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Sproul,
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you all.
Tell you what, this is the best call for it. Whoever knows how to run a freaking.
Yeah,
We're here, let's go. Okay, we're done. This is great.